the profile of the Romanian, IT company and the startups is that usually it's a tech person. So they're very well skilled. They work with large organizations and big projects. The problem is that when you're moving from a outsourcing mode into a product mode, this is a different animal. You're talking about markets. You're talking about needs. You're talking about competition. You're talking about relationships, building the relationships first. So it's relationship first. Either, in either situations, either you're going to have an outsourcing or services, either you're going to have a product. Because at the end of the day, if you have a product and you have no customers, guess what? You have to have a lot of trust. A lot of weight is going to be on the trust that you have. So this is why, leveraging communities, they will help you accelerate the growth.
Hi, Călin Buzan, and thank you for accepting our invitation to the ITalks podcast.
Well, thank you, Csaba, for inviting me to the podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an amazing opportunity to talk about what we do within the chamber, and that's so exciting to have this opportunity to spend time with you this evening.
We know each other for the last 4 or 5 years or so, something like that?
Yes, I think it was before the pandemic,
yes.
And
we met at the conference organized by the Chamber of Commerce of Belgium, if I remember right.
Yes, I think they had an amazing beer that evening. People were telling me
it was
that...
an online event, I remember that.
I usually go to, I went only a couple of times at the Belgium embassy, and they have amazing beers because there's a huge tradition over there. Yeah. I usually don't drink as much, but obviously when you have so many choices and flavors, and usually they're very tough, in a high alcohol. But this, definitely was a great opportunity to meet. It's a great opportunity to be here with you. And I'm looking forward to see what we're going to talk about today.
Well, the road is ahead of us. I have a couple, not necessarily questions, just ideas what I wrote down, documenting from you and your life and your personal life journey and your business life journey and your current position. And we will come back to that a little bit later on. What struck me and caught my attention back then 4 or 5 years ago is the fact that you're a very straightforward person and you're very open. I hope that you have not changed in the meantime, and as long as we know each other and we sometimes call each other on the phone, you remain the same. So I want to challenge you at the beginning. So let's pretend that some people, maybe they are just clicking on this podcast for the first time in their life. So they are not really familiar how the ITalks podcasts are. What do you think, from what you have learned about us and this type of podcast, why should they keep on listening to us? Why should they keep on watching us?
Well, this is a very good question, and obviously you put me on the right spot, on a spot, and this is I need to think about it. But I think the reason why people should watch your show is because you put so much emotion and desire in making this work well. And this is what is really striking, because you have a couple of years of experience in putting this together, and it's building up, and having these emotions and desire and the passion is that one that drives quality, and you try to do the best. And this is why at the end of the day, people have so much. They have a limited amount of time, in a day, so they have to decide whether they should watch, a show, whether they should watch on social media and so on. What I think it's really, really important is to have the patience to watch the podcast and to understand why you put a passion, how much thought you're putting into making this podcast a success. And I think with this passion, people will realize, and they will go back and understand why you've done the things that you've done, and they're going to see that you bring them value in their lives. So I think that's what's really important in my perspective. You have these aspects that I'm sure they're going to make a good time, well time spent when you're watching or you're listening the shows. Meanwhile traveling or staying at home.
But however, we have to keep reminding ourselves that I'm sitting on this chair, so I'm on this side of the podcast. But this podcast is not about me, and it's more about you, and it's more about those of you who are watching us, and try to maybe hopefully we will also inspire you of doing things, going out a little bit of your comfort zone and learning from our guests, or even just having ideas. And you mentioned a couple of times the word passion, and before we hit the recording, we also had a little bit of chat, and you also mentioned about this word passion. Are you a passionate person, and what is the weight of passion in your life, if so?
Well, I think passion, you have to take it, with a grain of salt. There is, hot passion, getting into too much nerves and so on. What I think, what is describing me and my actions and the way that I behave, the passion from my perspective is just being sure that you're constant over there. You have a strategy and you know where you're going. This is way important for people to understand that you have to start the journey and you have to have the stamina to go through it. So that's resilience added to this mix. Because if you have passion and say, hey, I want to do something, and then, next day you're like, oh, I want to do something else, and so on, nothing is going to happen. You have to have the passion to make sure that, when people ask me and say, what type of career should I choose, and when they're early in their careers and say, or like they're in high school and so on, or in college, and you're saying, okay, well, first of all, you have to think about what value you bring to the society, and then to find something that works for you, and it's a strength that you have. This goes back to one of the books that I read. Meanwhile, I was in Boston, maybe 12 years ago during an MBA at Bentley University. It was about
11 months, was it?
Yeah, it was an 11-month, super intense MBA. Super grateful that I had the opportunity to be there and learn from the best. So it's the book. It's very short. It says Strength Finder 2.0. And what I realized reading that book, that guides you how to find what are your strengths, and then to make sure you get actions and positions that are aligned with the strengths that you have. And then going back and say, okay, I'm a manager. I know what I do. I know what to do in my position. And you grow, and then you're asking yourself, so I'm becoming a manager. What's the next thing that I do? Then it's like, okay, let's create a team. And then your job as a manager is making sure you find the skills in people and you place them properly. So in my perspective, a manager is more or less like a coach. So it's like you understand that the coach is the person that's saying, hey, let's say I'm representing Romanian American Chamber of Commerce. So when we're talking about football, it really depends on which side of the Atlantic you are, So let's talk about soccer, the European football. So obviously, because we are recording in Romania, we're talking about midfielder or goalkeeper and so on. So you have to understand what are your skills, and then at the same time knowing how to communicate and how to integrate what you do and how you do it well. So if you do this becomes an art, and you create an organization. So from my perspective, when we're talking about passion, is not necessarily, la vida loca, let's high emotions and so on. This is great, but the passion, it's something like, I truly believe that I have a goal, and the goal is to help you make sure you're reaching that, and it has to be more than money. when I was in the States before moving back to Romania 7 or 8 years ago, I was thinking to create a school for kids that would help them to become successful individuals in life. So it's really important. Whenever you're trying to, like, when you're young, you have the highest chances to learn things. You know,
and you should learn many things.
Yeah.
And you know.
Yeah, so for instance, this goes back to my experience in Boston in AI, and right now this is a huge topic.
Especially these days, definitely, and I believe 2025 will be a very important year for AI.
Absolutely, and we have an event in London next week talking about AI, and it's going to be phenomenal to talk about that. But what I take from the AI, and it's basically statistical, like the AI is just obviously a marketing term, is just statistics that pretty much were like algorithm that were invented a long time ago. But right now we have the computing power to make sure we put this into practice. So humans are our little computers, and they look into, and then the earliest you learn a behavior, the easiest is to make sure you're repeating the questions, and then you're becoming good at it. The question is like, what type of behaviors you're learning when you're young, and this is the reason why I was thinking about that. And talking about passion, obviously, money, in my perspective, shouldn't be the first goal that you have, because you're gonna be successful. But the question is like, are you gonna enjoy success by yourself, or are you gonna enjoy a success with others? In my perspective, happiness is going to be, you're going to have greater chances to be happy if you're celebrating in a group than by yourself.
It said that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And talking about journeys, about going alone or with a team. Now you are director of new business development at Ford.
Yes.
For a couple from January 2024, and you are also at the moment Vice President of Romanian American Chamber of Commerce IT Alliance. Now, this is where are you now? We will come back to this and what does it mean and what you actually do having these positions at the moment. But I'm curious, and hopefully those who are watching us or listening to this podcast also interested. What is your life journey? If I would go back with a time machine, of course, like 30 years ago, when you were 10-ish something, what would I see? Where would I find Călin, and what thoughts did Călin had back when he was 10 years ago, and what were his challenges, and how did he overcome those challenges?
Well, this is a very, very good topic. I wasn't sure whether we're going to go that far, but I will go even further than that.
Okay.
So it's even more than 40 years ago. So obviously I'm over 40.
I managed to sneak in this information.
But, so this is very, very interesting. So my life journey was really, really, particular, especially when I was very young. So I have two sisters that are older than me. My father died when I was 2, so it was really, really, really tough. The first years in life. I was born in the 80s. Romania had the worst, economical crisis in the 80s, and obviously the 90s followed suit. It was, very terrible. And there aren't too many countries that can compare to this situation that happened in the 80s and in the 90s. We can dwell on that as well. But from a personal perspective, I was raised by a single mom, and that gave me obviously a lot of love and strength and trust in myself. But bear in mind, I went to my grandma when I was 3 years old, and I stayed until I was 7. Back in the 80s, when you were living in the countryside, you were just taking care of the chicken, the pig, the cow, and so on. So And I was pretty much by myself, so there was no surveillance. There was no like, okay, now you go to the kindergarten. Let me pick you up. What have you ate?
Share your location where you are.
Exactly. Nothing of that. And I'm so grateful, that I had this opportunity because I learned from very, very young how to take care of myself, understand a little bit, how much help you can get from outside and how much real help you get or not. Because in my position, you could be easily cynical and saying, hey, nobody helped. But they didn't, So you can say, but in my perspective, it's just a choice. In life, when you're born, you're kind of left in a position where you are like at a poker game and you have a hand, and so you have to decide what you do with it. Mm-hmm. So each of us, they have a good hand or like a so and so. The question is like, what do you do with it? You can have a very, very good hand in poker. By the way, I'm not a huge player in poker, so but I understand how it works. So the issue is like you can have a very good hand, so you can have people that have a really good start. The question is like what you do, further in your life. So going back into my history, so by 7. Usually people in our age, they know how to count, they know how to read and so on. It's like, for me, it was nothing, like pretty much zero. Like I went, in my first grade and I had terrible grades, okay? But I was able to succeed and right now I speak 4 languages. So obviously this is a proof that you can build and it's about resilience and it's about understanding the world. The world is, a really amazing place and could be very harsh. And the question is like how you take this into play. And what drove my because this we have enough time. It's an hour and so from what I learned. When I was 8 years old, it was 1989 in Romania. It was the end of the communism. What is really interesting, before the communism, my family, was pretty well off. In a village, my grandpa was a mayor and so on. So when the communists came, they nationalized everything, and they cut a lot of opportunities for the family. So that had a big impact on us. So when I went back to Cluj, which right now it's called the Silicon Valley in Romania, which it's an amazing city and I'm really proud of. When I was 8 years old, I said to myself, if my family, maybe my great grandfather was able to build from scratch something maybe 100 years ago, I can do the same. So that drove me at the 8 years old, because a lot of people say, hey, I don't know what to do. It's like I need guidance and so on. For me, it was like I knew that it's possible. And this is probably the message that I can across to other people that are watching this podcast, is that you can do stuff. But you have to have the patience and the stamina to make sure it's happening.
That was your driver.
Yeah. So I decided to go maybe when I was 12 years old towards business.
Did you own side hustles, small businesses?
No, it was not necessarily.
That kind of person?
Not necessarily. So I was reading a lot about business, and I, by 14 years old, bear in mind at 7, and no Romanian reading and so on, I was able to read Financial Times and so on. So I was really lucky that I was coming, and I had the intellect to be able to recap from what happened, in my early years, which obviously drove me to to thinking about how you can impact the kids when they're very, very young. So you don't have to go through all the struggles, but at the same time, some struggle is really important. And then maybe we can talk about what we can do with the chamber and why I think the struggle is good for you. It's making you, improve your path and finding your right path. Which each of us have their own path, and in my perspective, you should look into, your own journey, not necessarily watching and comparing, because you're always going to find people that they're, in a better position right now.
Absolutely. And I was just reading an article about, leadership. It was the main topic, but I was talking about, you mentioned already, how important at a young age to learn and to acquire new behaviors. And it was, you can read about riding a bicycle, you can watch videos about how to ride a bicycle, but at one point you have to get on a bicycle and try it yourself with the falls and everything, because this is how you learn how to ride a bicycle. And I believe that's also what you're saying. It's a common denominator of all the guests who were here. We are like 25 episodes for the moment. And if you stress me to find something common with all of you who came here and we talked here, is that none of you had an incredible start, and then from there on, life was like a la vita e bella and nothing, there was no problem, no challenge. All of you, including myself too, we managed to achieve something. You managed to achieve something, not because of the good start, but because of the struggle, what made you stronger.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm curious about this. Do you think, I have 2 kids, you have 3, you have just
one which
sorry.
is 3 months.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, we hope we're going to have 3.
Yeah, okay.
We're just 3 months, so things and ideas could change. Yeah.
There's a challenge in the parents' mind. Should we leave our kids to go through struggles and challenges, or just make their life easy and nice and without any problems?
I mean, obviously this is a very, very hot topic. I'm just learning about it, so in my perspective, I'm leaning towards creating the environment, the safe environment where you can develop, but and making sure you understand the way the world works.
Absolutely.
So this is what, in my perspective, like the good part when I was very young and I was, trying to help out with the family, how much you can do with when you're 3 years old or 4 or 5, you understand how things are connected, and once you understand how real things, how you can have an impact, like what you do is going to have, you do something and then it's going to have another impact, and so on. And you understand how things are connected in the world. If you're spending too much time in being guarded of what happens in the world, then you're going to be anxious, in my perspective. Just like, in my perspective, you have to find the right balance between, too much stress and obviously to be cozy, and that's something that again this philosophy can change.
Absolutely.
And words have different meanings for people, so I could say a word and you can understand, you can think about, say, hey, Călin, this is exactly what he wants on this topic. That's why I'm like, I'm still learning.
To change the topic of the discussion. I would suggest a little bit fast forward to the present.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I understand from where are you coming, and like I would like to talk, where are you now? And as I said, you are a director of new business at Ford, and you're also vice president at the Romanian Chamber of Commerce of IT Alliance. What is what you do, and why you do what you do now?
Well, I mean, so first of all, it's, you have 2 roles, and people ask, so why are you doing these 2 roles? I mean, first of all, what I do at Ford, it's a sequence of positions that I had in business development and helping companies grow their business.
Internationally, you're doing this for the last 10, 20 years, some more or less?
I mean, 20 years ago, I did a master's in Italy in internationalization. So I basically, through the Italian government and the scholarship that I got in Brescia, Italy, I learned how to how to help companies to go international. So from that point, I had positions that were more or less international, or they were local. I had positions in Romania, and then I had positions in the US. So in the US, I spent 6 years. So 5 years after I graduated the MBA at Bentley. So what I do, for instance, in Ford is it's a leading cybersecurity company in Romania. It works with the largest banks in here, and at this point we're expanding internationally. And for instance, London and UK is a market where we are active, and we're getting business quite a lot. So this is on my professional journey. On the Romanian American Chamber of Commerce IT Alliance, over there, this is an NGO. It started in New York. We are part of RAC, Romanian American Chamber of Commerce, that was launched in 1990s, right after the Romanian Revolution. What is really interesting, with regards to the chamber, that this is more or less from the passion and from what we try to give back to the community, and this is really interesting. The president, Bogdan Căpățână, who's director of data strategy within Ford, and he's based in Detroit. He's been in the States for over 35 years. He realized 4 or 5 years ago that Romanian companies, they need support in the US, the tech companies. He has access to the largest organizations in technology, from AWS, Google, and so on. So he understands, what's necessary to be successful in the US. And this is what maybe 4 or 5 years ago led him to launch this initiative. A couple of years ago, we had a call, and he asked me whether I want to join him in this journey. And I said, yeah. My goal is to help Romanian companies to go global, Romanian tech companies to go global. US is part of that game. Let's join forces and see what we can build. And since then, things went exponential. We are active maybe the team started more or less a year and a half ago, and we are active in the market for 14 months already. So this is an amazing journey that we've done in these 14 months. It's a lot to talk about and to unpack. The question is who are the stakeholders, the people that are in the team in RAC IT, the guests that come to the events, or the members, and so on. So, and more of the society, what's going to be the impact in Romania or in other countries. So I think I'm curious on which one, because there are different different directions. I'm curious in which direction should I go.
Well, we don't have a written path for this podcast. It's where my mind and your mind goes, we will go. I'm curious, nevertheless, what have you learned in this period since you're working with RAC and also with Ford?
What I learned, and I'm super grateful, is obviously the part of working with people that have passion, working with people that are focusing on their strength, and people that know how to play in a team. At the end of
the importance of this.
Yeah, obviously, this is, at the end of the day, people ask, maybe a year ago, I had people saying, hey, why are you doing this? Because, there are other, events, organizations that are very similar to you, and they're obviously more mature. It's like, what's the secret sauce that you have? And probably you don't. So I'm like, we had a story. We were thinking, especially starting from Romania, we said, okay, let's create a community in the first year. Ideally, in the third year, we should be the number one option to go in the States. So that's the idea. That's the strategy. So if you are a tech company going or planning to go to the US, you should think about RAC IT. Obviously, we know that, in the first couple of events, initiatives, community, that wouldn't happen because, there are many factors in this. But the journey, that's the North Star, saying, okay, we want to get there. And then we have to look into what resources we have from people, money, and time, and making sure we're doing, the things that are critical, because at the end of the day, this is the challenge that you have as a manager or as a leader. It's like, I have limited resources. Where do I put the time? Where, and how much time should I wait? And obviously, what we're coming with REC, I think we're coming at the right time, especially for Romanian companies. I'm not talking about international. We can talk about why REC is more than Romanian or American. So the whole point is, Romania is especially IT sector, has over 200,000 employees. It's
highly skilled ones. They have a huge impact in the GDPs, like 8 to 9%. This is huge. I mean, this highly skilled, very well paid, people, they have a huge impact in Romania. It's obviously everybody's talking about it. This is one of the reasons when I was coming back from the States, I was focusing on IT. It's just that we can take players in other industries, but it would be really tough to. So you might have a player like Demeter, or you might have a player like Banca Transilvania, and others. That just obviously, I don't want to make sure that I'm not saying they're international players, but the issue is going to be: can you have 2 companies like that in that sector? What about 3? What about 4? Obviously, we had UiPath, which is a huge success, and it's a great partner for REC IT. And we know, and we're certain that we're going to have other success stories. Obviously, why? Because IT is a sector that moves. It would be really tough to innovate in food and beverages. So obviously those are industries, or textiles. It's really hard to innovate and create players in an industry, global players. Yeah. So that was my passion and my direction. But at the same time, Romania, it's in the IT sector is going through a transition right now. So there are many reasons why it happens, and we can agree or disagree why these are happening. But what's very clear is that Romania, it's easily moving into a product mode. So if you're moving into a product mode compared to outsourcing, it's a different animal. And this is why we built REC, to make sure the companies that are building, let's say, products, or they sell services, they sell the services in a successful way, efficiently, on the international scale. And how we do that, that's the secret sauce, that's the North Star. Obviously, in new business and in sales, you never know, you can't have certainty. We know we would love to have that, but it's just a matter of of building stories and building communities. So we started a year and a half ago. Right now with REC, we're present in Bucharest. We have events starting from the fall in London. In March, we're going to have our first event in Austin. Most likely, we're going to have an event in April or May in New York, and probably in Cluj. So, this is a pretty interesting journey that we did so far, and this is not the end. So when we're thinking about creating value, you have to think about at what stage in REC story we are, and you have to think about who would be impacted and where. So for instance,
we went to, people ask, why are you in London? So for instance, next week we have like a huge event on AI, and we have amazing speakers, and I suggest people to watch it. It's on Zoom. All our main events are on Zoom, so you can watch it. Whether
they're also in-person events.
Yes, they're in-person events and they're hybrid events. But what's really interesting that we give access to people from anywhere where you have internet to go and watch it on Zoom. So that's very cool. And people were asking us why you're in London and you're a Romanian American Chamber. What's that? I mean, we're kind of particular in the way we do things. We realize that, to go from Romania to the US, there aren't too many flights. It costs a lot of money. And you wouldn't have a huge amount of companies that would be relevant for the US market. To go in the US market, it could be challenging. It could be a little bit of culture, but obviously huge budgets. Some companies, they can do it on low budgets, and we have members that succeeded phenomenally in launching in the US, and they're super successful. So I'm thinking about TradeArian when I'm talking about that. So we were thinking, let's have London, because London is actually in between. So London, it's a great place because it's very close to the US culture. It's a little bit close to the Romanian culture. Romania has a very interesting mix of influence right now. It's influenced by the like watching TVs in the 90s more or less, like that were done in the States. But people in Romania, they would be in the tech industry, they would be more interested to go in London, and people in the UK would be interested to go in the US. And we were thinking, okay, let's do these 3 countries. Let's start with these countries and have multiple locations and make sure that we serve the people that come to these events or they're part of the community. We serve them on the local markets and we serve them internationally. So the way we are a little bit different compared to other organizations is especially that are present in Romania is through the fact that we have regular events in multiple cities and countries. So this creates a predictability. So we are very predictable from the perspective. Okay, I want to do business in London. If we have once a year an event, you cannot build a business on that. Business is built on
and consistency, I guess.
Consistency and trust. Mm-hmm. So what we suggest to the members and to the people that come to the events is make sure that you build a connection, trust with the other people. That's the foundation to build good relationships and to build business. So if you don't have the trust, nothing is going to happen. You can have, you might have the need, you might be super competitive, but if there isn't a good chemistry between people, and chemistry between people means to have things in common, to spend time with them, and we're creating this is what we're doing. We're creating the environment in multi-cities to make sure that you, as a member, you have access, you're building the right connections, you have something in common, with other people that are going to be part of the same community.
That brings up a very interesting question, because some of those who are listening to it might have a business idea, already have a business in IT in Romania. What are the steps they should take in order to be part of this and have the opportunity to go out in the international markets? But if we want to simplify it in step 1, step 2, step 3, what would be that?
I mean, first of all, go on RecIT website or LinkedIn page and sign up and register. You're going to see over there our schedule of events, and you can get in contact with us. And obviously, we have a pretty big team, and this is growing. I think we have easily
25 people, so at this point, in different positions, you know. So I think, and this is going to grow as we expand. So I'm thinking that probably by the end of the year, we're going to have around 50 or 60 people that are going to be involved in this operation. So we come to our events, talk to you know, our team, talk to our ambassadors. We have 10 ambassadors. I mean, our goal is to have for each location 10 ambassadors. These are people that are working in the industry. So you can reach out either to us or you can reach to the ambassadors. A key differentiator from RAC to, you know, to other organizations that are similar to us is that we focus in making sure that we get ambassadors that they get involved. Is not just the name, you know. As nice as it would be to have like a very flashy name and so on, we want to make sure that people get value. And another thing that is really, really important when you want to go international is to build, you know, the stamina, build, you know, the patience, knowing that this is going to take a while. You're not going to, you know, buy a plane ticket to go to London and boom, you're just going to do business from day one. It could happen. But you know, what's really important is to make sure this is a long journey. So for instance, maybe it was in November, we had a VC that was having a talk about how to go in the UK. They were saying that it takes 18 to 24 months before you sign the first contracts. You know, I was lucky with Ford to have the first contracts in the first couple of months. Obviously, what I'm trying to get from my personal experience, and I want to put it in and help others. But in the same time, and it can be done. Obviously, if it's done, then that means it's possible. The question is like how you build the right pipeline, how you build the right relationships. Business is done between people. So, you know, if you're focusing, this is what I realized after going to many events, and I realized, and that helped me together with a team to tailor the way we organize the events. Our idea is to have micro events, I mean, up to 100 people in person, just to make sure there aren't too many people. You have the chance to really talk and sit down with people. Exactly. So we're thinking, okay, if you have too many people, it's too much and it's overwhelming. And going back to what choices you have in this moment, for if you're a company that you want to build a product, you want to go international, or you have a product, the first thing that you would do, you would say, okay, I'm thinking that New York could be a good market, or Boston, or San Francisco, London, I don't know, and other places. And the first thing that you're going to do, you're going to say, okay, where can I talk to potential partners, customers, and you're just going to go to a big event, which is going to cost $1,000, $2,500 dollars or euros, or more or less that amount of money, and then travel. So usually these events are for 3 days, and the problem that you have when you have these big events is that you spend 2-3 weeks to prepare them. You go at this event with a lot of energy. Most likely, if you've done your homework and you've done them well, and it's really hard to do that because you talk to a lot of people, more or less you'd have no answers back. You have the chance to set up 30 meetings in 3 days. And then just because you have so much desire to have results, because you invested so much money and time and energy, just gonna have another 20. I've been there. I mean, we've been working in sales for a while, so I remember I had a capacity to remember all the meetings that I have in an evening, even if you had a few drinks. So, imagine you do that for 3 days. You have 50 meetings. At the end of the 50 meetings, you end up, when you go back home, you say, you have 5 companies that or leads, the clients or potential partners that could work for you. The problem is, or the challenge that you have, is that these 5 people that you talk to, they spoke to another 50 people.
While you talk with more people, these are the shortlisted.
Yes, the shortlisted list. This is the top 5. It's like you spent 5 to 7,000. You went there. You wasted. No, you spent a lot. You invested in knowing the market amount, which is a big effort. Imagine if you want to do it in multiple countries, multiple locations. So you have to spend so much energy, and then these 5 leads, they have another 50 meetings. And unfortunately for you, you're on a priority list. You're like 35 and below. And this is
can happen. This too.
Yeah. So obviously, if you do that, there is a mismatch, and this is one of the reasons why people go to these events. And I had conversations with people recently, and they were saying we've invested in the largest conferences in Europe. I'm not going to name the sector, and there is no business. 3 years. Take the 3 or 4 people having a stand costs a lot of money, a lot of energy. So our belief in this is that there are too many people, probably with the same people that if you were to speak in a setting, you would have time to build the trust, you would have time to go visit them and so on. So the difference that we have with RAC, that we're building communities, and these communities help, you have access before you go to, let's say you want to go to London, you can talk to our team in London and say, hey, I want to talk to a few members, with whom should I speak? I want to hire I want to just finish this. I want to hire a person. I think I've seen this person. Is it the right person? So you can have ways to validate. Imagine if you have 10 or 20 locations globally, where you can say, I have the money to spend. I have $20 million, and I'm on a Series A or Series B. Who should I hire in the next, 12 months, making sure that I go in multiple markets. Bear in mind, there is a caveat to this. We are not, one-stop shop. We don't offer a solution for all the problems, all the markets. We are an entry point. We're like a safe place where you can talk to people and say, hey, I want to understand the location. I want to understand what's happening here. I want to get real and meaningful relationships that would help you guide you best to achieve your goals. So maybe this is just the first step, but it's obviously way less effort and is more efficient. So this is, this is what I think it's a big differentiator in what we do.
You must be in contact with multiple Romanian companies who are already member of RAC at the moment. If you would, not naming the companies, but I would like to learn, and just as an example that maybe others do have the same challenges that what entrepreneurs who are looking at this podcast may also have. What are the challenges of the Romanian entrepreneurs, Romanian companies, IT companies who want to go with you into international markets? What are the challenges they are facing now and they are overcoming?
I mean, the biggest challenge that we face right now, that it's kind of like a contraction in the market. So this happens everywhere in all major markets, and obviously, Romania, it's workforce. It's quite expensive. It's very well skilled, but it's quite pricey. It's like when we started 20 years ago, the prices were very competitive. The challenge that as an entrepreneur you're in right now is that you have to be, you have high cost. Right now, the clients are more sophisticated, and this is what we're trying to build. And even if we have 3 or 4 success stories. This is what I want to take the, I want to drink some, water, not, something that's going to get us too excited. Mm-hmm. Each company, each person have their own story. It depends a lot on yourself. We're just building the environment. So I think the success comes in building these partnerships, and this is what we've done, and making sure we bring the right people in the community. Okay. So the way we started, and a lot of people ask us in the community and in Romania, saying, I haven't heard of you. It's like, it's like we just, like, you're doing interesting stuff and potentially very relevant. Why is that? So the way we started, is to make sure that we build a community with people that are look-alike, that, we had a core team of board members. And so we invited the people that we know we were successful, that we know they were vetted. So in this way, you build a community that have a lot of things in common.
You're trying to attract those entrepreneurs and companies, IT companies from Romania who share the same values and who believe in a community, and who maybe in terms of the challenges what they're facing, maybe they are in lack of a community to be member of, who is supporting them making this step outside of Romania. Besides so also alongside with the fact that you were mentioning that indeed, Romania is a good IT sector country. However, our wages went up, which is normal, and I hope that Romania will not be, leaped or left behind, like outsourcing to another country who is much cheaper than Romania. And I love the idea that you are saying that Romania is a little bit metamorphosing from the outsourcing country to a product country, which I hope that we will have this chance, and I think it's a great opportunity to Romanian companies making this transition.
Yeah, so I think the profile of the Romanian, IT company and the startups is that usually it's a tech person. So they're very well skilled. They work with large organizations and big projects. The problem is that when you're moving from a outsourcing mode into a product mode, this is a different animal. You're talking about markets, you're talking about needs, you're talking about competition, you're talking about relationships. So usually not necessarily...
Are we ready to make this transition?
I mean, the Darwinian perspective is like, it fits...
Adapt or die.
Exactly. So you have to adapt. There is no other solution to this. You have to find a way to adapt. And so there is no question. I mean, obviously, if you're saying, no, I won't change, that pretty much, it might be a good strategy. So to make things very clear, we are going to stay into outsourcing mode, but the question is like what type of outsourcing you're going to do, what type of let's say skills you have to the table, what is different in the approach. And this is what, if you're a manager of a tech team, you're going to say, okay, how I am competitive on the market. So like in the US and in the UK is the same thing. Everybody wants to be there. So you might have competition from 10, 15 countries or 20 countries that all of them, they have good history and so on. So it's just like how you separate. So the basic stuff that I learned, when I was doing business school is that in a market where you have, let's say, a big competition and there isn't too much differentiation, honestly. I mean, obviously you might have the best team experience and so on, mm-hmm. but services are really tough to say, who's best and so on. Each of us can have good stories and bad stories and so on. So in this situation, the main differentiator would be the relationships. And this is why when we're building this community, we're like, okay, we're building a community where we're thinking about, let's say, building the relationships first. So it's relationship first. Either, in either situations, either you're going to have an outsourcing or services, either you're going to have a product. Because at the end of the day, if you have a product and you have no customers, guess what? You have to have a lot of trust. A lot of weight is going to be on the trust that you have. So this is why, leveraging communities, they will help you accelerate the growth. And, within the community, obviously we try, when you are a company that want to expand, you want to look at two things, especially when you have a product. You want to look into new opportunities for sales, which it could be either through partnerships or to direct sales, and find investors. Okay. So we try to make sure that we have an answer to this. This is obviously going to be evolving, depends on the complexity of the organization we're trying to build. But this is critical. At the end of the day, people want to see results. They want to understand. They could have the patience, but it is, what am I betting? Where I'm putting my time? So this is why we are very grateful when people spend time with us, and we are grateful for the team.
Learning from them when you spend time with them, and they are also growing with you.
Yeah.
Together. Talk about growing. I believe that while we started this podcast at the beginning, talking about passion, I wasn't wrong. You're a very passionate person, and while listening to you, and for me, every podcast and every guest what we have here, it's a great opportunity to learn about what is important in life for them, what have they done, what are they doing, and from what I hear from you, you will have a lot of projects this year to be put in place, and also to launch new locations. I believe that let's have a deal. Let's have this podcast again in a year, and to see where are we standing and what have you achieved. Because I would really love to share the opportunity with people to learn from other people's successes, people or NGOs or communities. I'm a strong believer of a community, and I believe that that's one of the key elements of every growth. If you have a community to grow with, you will reach farther distances than just going alone.
Absolutely. And you're deal on, okay. So deal on, we're just gonna meet in a year and see what we've done. I think this is a great, this is going to be a great and exciting stuff to see what have we done in 12 months. What is really, really important, I want to stress this out. It's about the team. It's about making sure we work as a good team together, and that's why I'm really grateful. At the end of the day, we're just a team, and we're building stuff together. We try to provide value. We put a lot of time. We put a lot of effort. But this, at the end of the day, it's very exciting, and I'm very curious what's going to happen in the next 12 months.
I think you're more than curious. You kind of know what's going to happen, because you're also counting on many things, and you lay down many things which are now coming to life and to in our life as a result. We have a closing habit at this podcast. The guest we had previously leaves a question, so you will also leave a question to the next guest. You will not know. You can do whatever you want, but I will not tell you who's our next guest. So it's not a prepared question. The question what was left for you, it's from a gold medalist at the Paris Olympics from Romania. It's Florin Marianenache, and he's asked you the following question. Yesterday you said that you will do it. Have you done it?
Well, in general, obviously this is a very good question. In general, yeah. Obviously, procrastination it is a big and it's a very challenging topic.
Is it challenging for you too?
Of course, I do procrastinate. Let's make things very clear. But in my perspective, a guiding line for people is, and for myself, and I've done it, and this was quite successful, is to have a goal and to say, okay, this is my objective, and like I have one objective, I have one main objective, and then I see what else I can fit in. So the question is like, on what are you focusing, and what is critical, and what is critical, what's not. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, fulfilling all the tasks that you're gonna do, that you want to do, it's literally impossible. I mean, especially, let's put it this way, sales, okay, new business and so on. There are unlimited opportunities to talk to people.
It's very hard to find those 20% which make up the 80% of the results.
Absolutely.
Pareto law.
Yeah. So I think so the question, and I'm always going back to myself and saying, what's really the main driver for myself? What should I focus on, and make sure that I'm aligned to that? And if there is a delay, because this happens, in my perspective, you got to be honest, because at the end of the day, this is, honesty. With honesty, you build trust. So this is, in my perspective, extremely important. To make sure you're honest with yourself and you're honest with others. Nobody's perfect, so this shouldn't be an excuse, though. So it's a very fine line.
All right. Călin, thank you very much for your thoughts and for accepting this invitation. I hope you liked it, and we have a deal. We will see each other in a year.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been super fun. This is amazing. I'm definitely on for the next year. I'm looking forward to see where your podcast and how we can grow together.
Together we can grow.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for the invitation. It's been a lovely evening, and I'm looking forward to see you soon. And I want to see the comments from the people to see what's important for them to be asked.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.